Live from Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning La La Land, coloring our world. Lisa Caprelli, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So
Good Morning
lovely,
La La Land.
lovely to meet you. So tell us about the 5 habits: family, friendship, business, intimacy, and adventure.
Yes.
Love
So I started writing a book called Skip a Step that will be published in the new year. And I've interviewed 13 different people, my co-author Michael Ashley, and entrepreneurs, leaders, people that have done great work in the world. And along the way, you know, there's always struggle along the way. You don't just make it to the top and life is great, it's perfect. So in interviewing and doing research of working with many people in brand and even my career, I started on this personal quest of happiness. And you're a happiness coach, you know, I saw that, and you know, your show's about inspiration and happiness. And I always wanted to know what makes people happier, you know, and is it money? As you know, we know it's not just money. There's a lot of things to that, and you were talking about that yesterday on your Instagram about harmony. And so I was on this personal quest to what makes people happy, really, you know, what makes people fulfilled, and always asking the questions and interviewing, you know, mega millionaires and people that, like, I have a story of a friend I'll call Stan, and he had this beautiful house on Balboa Island, had yachts, cars, you name it. And he says to me one day, "Lisa, I'm not happy." And I'm like, what? And so for a girl like me that came from Texas, that came from nothing and really made my life here in California, I started saying, God, like if I was you, I would be so happy. What I would do with this abundance of community and use it for the greater good. And so then I started, even in my own personal journey and being in relationships that did not serve me well at the time, realizing that there's 5 areas of life that will leave you truly fulfilled when you fill them up. So the first one is family. We're all born of a family. And then the second hat is friendship. The third hat is business career. We need that to fuel the things we love. The fourth hat is connection, intimacy, sex. The fifth hat is adventure. And I feel that there's different fuel levels in life. Maybe when you're young, you're very ambitious. You want that business hat to be really high. But if you do that forever, other things are going to crumble. And you're going to neglect your family. You're going to, if you're working too hard, whether you know you have a spouse, you might be neglecting them in the intimacy department. And then, you know, if you're doing too much, maybe you find people in relationships lose their own identity. They stopped doing if they were skiing, or if they were, you know, they loved surfing, or, you know, I like camping and hiking, and I do that now. So it's just fulfilling those areas.
It's interesting though, because you're not just fulfilling them for other people though, you're fulfilling them for yourself.
For yourself.
And the way you're showing up for yourself in those relationships or your passions, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like a Maslow's hierarchy, but you've taken it from a standpoint of taking interviews. Is that kind of
Yes.
what you're taking, those kind of normal human needs, but finding examples of how they did that?
Yeah, well, I love the 5 love languages, which, you know, is very empowering, and I recommend it to all people. It's obviously a best-selling book. And I just came up with the 5 hats. And being a woman, and even men, we wear multiple hats. Like, and you know, if you're a mom, you know, you're wearing more hats, and it's like switching hats from mom to this to that, and which one is the better one? What am I supposed to be?
I love the metaphor of the hats as opposed to like juggling balls,
Right.
Because when you're juggling balls, you know, you're kind of always in the place of sort of stress and anxiety. But the hat thing is something you can put on fully, be fully
Yes.
present within that role, and then take it off and move on to something else.
Yes.
Okay.
And my children use it now, the hats, and they're like, I can't believe we're using this type of metaphor. Like, but it, you know, and I feel like live by example is the best way, because people will see you doing all these things. And like, you know, Jill, the guest you had before that talked about balance, like, how do you do all these things? People would say, because I paint, I'm an artist, I like to write. I just wrote a children's book in 3 days about a month ago. And they're like, how do you do all this? When you're happy, you will do more. And it's kind of like a fuel level. And so oftentimes, when I moved here from Texas about 18 years ago, I came here with nothing. And so I was really high in that number 3 business hat, and worked 60, 80 hours a week, just, you know, had a very successful company. And when the recession happened, and I took a look at my life, I was not in a relationship that served me. I was not good in the family hat, and was not proud of that. And so I think sometimes when life takes things away from you, you can have the opportunity to look at, what can I give myself now? What does this mean? It's always like, what does loss mean? It's an opportunity to look at your life again and look at the hats. And so through the years, people will come to me with a problem, not necessarily in business. I can see where they're neglecting the hats. And I say, well, you lost this. What is going on with your friendships? What is going on with your family? And a lot of time, life is saying you need to go feel those levels out.
I have a question. What if there's someone who doesn't have family, or they haven't found a partner, or they don't have a whole lot of friends, maybe they're just not very social, or maybe they're trying really hard to create those things, but they're not having a whole lot of luck?
I would say I don't think it's hard. I think they're maybe they're not being authentic. They need to, if you don't have a family, make a family. And you know, if you don't have connection, which is the number 4 hat, you don't have a partner to have sex with, you know, intimacy could be in friendships. You know, you see that with people. It could be helping a nonprofit. That's connection. So we are wired for connection. Human beings are wired for connection. And
I love this. So I'm on a quote roll, so I just thought of one. Okay, I have to share this. But that the loveless never find love. Only the loving find love, and they never have to search for it because it finds them.
Right.
Right. But that's the point: is that if you're feeling like you're loveless or lonely, to be loving and to come from a place where you're
and
giving
go give
more.
love. Go give love. Like this show, you all have a platform where you have a voice. You give to so many, and I'm sure you didn't even imagine what you would get back by doing this, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And you're giving. This is a lot of work to have a set like this, a show, and all this that you do. And you choose to do that. And when you started, you probably didn't have much of a following compared to today, and you grow and grow. So you're giving. So often I tell people when they're starting over, start giving in all the areas that you haven't given. And for me, when I started over after getting out of a long-term relationship, I went back to my roots, your family, you know, and your roots family, everyone has roots somewhere, or they have roots they can repair. And I started saying, I told my niece in El Paso, Alyssa, I'm gonna cry, but I said, I'm so sorry. Beautiful people in my life that I said, I'm so sorry that I wasn't around, and not that she wanted me to be around, but I said, I have this amazing family. I have a lot of family, you know, distant family. And I just started being present with them and enjoying. And my number 3 business hat wasn't going, Lisa, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. And with my children, I started learning to be more present. And they're like, wow, we have mom right now. She's not on her phone. You know, and I just found that in giving and fulfilling your hat, you become a beautiful person. And more, it's like the law of attraction.
So beautiful.
I love that. We're big on presence here.
Color your message. So is that the message? What's the message in here?
Thank you. Well, that's actually a branding book. It's one of the books I wrote in 2015. It went to the #1 on Amazon. It's a branding book, and so color your message is, it's saying it's not a black and white world, and there's many ways to branding yourself because that's what it was, really a business book. But through the years, I started writing more books and the interviews that shying away from the business, and life is about money, and life is about all the hats. That's the happiness. It's not about, you can have all the money in the world, and if your hats are stuff, you're going to be miserable.
So true, so well said. So how do people work with you? Do you work with them one-on-one? Do you work with them in your group? How
Yes,
does that work?
thanks for asking. Well, they can find me on my social media.
And I've been making it work now on TV for almost 20 years. Can you believe that? I've interviewed everybody from Meryl Streep to Michelle Obama.